Welcome to another episode of the Understanding Ultra podcast, the podcast that likes to ask the question, why? We aim to give you the insights from the top ultra runners and trail runners from around the world, the people that work in the trail industry, and everybody else. We dive into training, nutrition, mindset, and racing strategies to help you to become the best ultra runner that you can be. So without further ado, let's speak to our next guest. Okay, so welcome to the show, I've got it wrong already. Abichal, sorry. We just had a discussion about this, how to pronounce Abichal. Yep. Abichal Sherrington. Yes, Abichal. So Abichal, welcome to Understanding Ultra.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So people that know of you will know of you as being the editor of Ultrarunning World Magazine, won't they? So, but for people that don't know who you are, could you just give us like your background, how you came to be in this world of ultra running and your history, just as briefly or as long as you want to explain it?
Okay. I was looking for a spiritual teacher for a few years. This is in 1984, 85, and I started to learn to meditate in London, and then I moved to Oxford, and I found that the centre is the Sri Chinmoy Centre there had just hosted a concert by Sri Chinmoy, and so I went along and eventually I signed up. I became a student of Sri Chinmoy in 1990, and he was very keen on people being fit and healthy. So his philosophy of self-transcendence kind of drew me in, and I started running. And in the mid-90s, I entered a 10-day race that they were holding in New York, and I ran that for 7 years in a row. It was in April, and it's still held in New York in April, and then I gradually began to stretch myself. I mean, that was like at the beginning. It took me a long time to recover from the race, and then but gradually I started to do we had a 700-mile race in September. So I did that, and then I did that for a few years, and then I tried the 1,000-mile race we had in New York, and then I was invited to apply for the 3,100 in 2003, which I did, and I was accepted. And so then I ran the 3,100-mile race in New York for 6 years in a row. That was basically the only race that I was doing at the time. And then Sri Chinmoy passed away in 2007, and 2008 was the last time that I ran it, and since then I've been back in the UK because I was spending a lot of time there in New York, where he was based, and so yeah, I came back, and then I started working on doing the magazine, and so yeah, that was kind of the background for. So I'd run about 10 or 15 multi-days before I'd run any ultras. And I still haven't run many ultras in the UK. I've done our 24-hour a few times in London, but I haven't done much more than that. I've done like 6-day races in Europe, in Greece and Sweden. I went to Sweden and Monaco. So I've done a few 6-day races, and we held our own 6-day race in Oxford with a couple of friends, Pam Story and Alan Young. We put on a 6-day race in Oxford on a track, 400-meter track, in 2014, and then I helped co-direct a couple of 24-hour races since then. But so in the future, I am looking to do some more, host some more races in the UK. But at the moment, I got inspired to put on this running show here in Bristol in November. So that's currently absorbing all my attention.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. So really, your background is ultra running is a niche of running, but these like 6-day events and the Transcendence, like 1,000 and 3,100, they're like another niche within that niche, aren't they?
Yeah,
it's not really
the multi-days.
Multi-days, yeah. But when you think of most people thinking of ultra running, they sort of think of like a 50k or 100, a 50 miler, 100k, 100 mile, and then maybe some crazy people will do the spine race, and that's kind of the longest people think of. So I'd obviously heard of the Transcendence race before. I've heard a few podcasts talking about it. So what was it that drew you to that style of ultramarathon then? Was it purely that it was like a meditative thing that you wanted to find yourself during those runs?
Yeah, it's so I learned to meditate like I said in 1985 or 86, and over the years then I gradually realized that it's a practice that you do every day. You meditate. It's like an integral part of your life where you slow down, you stop, and you listen to deeper levels within you. And so these races were like basically set up to allow you to do that. You don't have to worry about anything really, apart from moving forward. In New York, the race is set up on a mile loop, and so they have like a little village, and they have a kitchen. You have 2 kitchens, one for runners, one for helpers, and they have like showers. There's a medical tent, and there's it runs around the clock, and they provide all your food and drink, and it's round the clock. So you just keep going. So the 6 and 10 day race, you don't have to worry about anything else. It's very, very focused, and you actually do like enter into this deeper level of your awareness, of your being. And a lot of people kind of reference it, but it happens much like less, in the shorter distances, which is so that's why I have a website, multidays.com, which is kind of like I post news now and again about the longer events to try and keep it out there. So that's where we need that kind of space. We have so little time to ourselves, and so little opportunity to connect with silence and ourselves on a deep level, because we've just got so much going on. It's so difficult because it's like it is a different state of consciousness. And just like when you wake up in the morning, it takes you some time to kind of to come back into the world and to be operating like at your normal level. That's because you've been in a very different state of consciousness, and that process of coming back, it just takes time. You don't want to rush too early in the morning, because it's not like harmonious for your your total being. And so I think that that's what meditation and, some practice, there's lots of different ways to, to experience this inner silence and inner peace. And this is just, the way that I have gone, the route I've gone. And Sri Chinmoy's path is kind of like, it's geared toward helping you get into that zone and stay there as long as you can.
What I find interesting about those races in particular, the Transcendence one that goes, it's a mile loop in Queens in New York, isn't it? Is that what it is?
The 6 and 10 day is on a mile. The 3100 is on a half a mile loop.
Yeah.
To run a school.
So in my mind, what I get from ultra running is part of that sort of, focus in my mind, and nothing else matters at that point, just literally what you're doing, living in the moment. But another thing that I sort of love about ultra running is that, or the races that I pick to do, are normally in spectacular places with, beautiful scenery, landscape, like Peak District and the Lake District, all these kind of places where an area of natural beauty, and that adds to the kind of my experience of a race. How does that compare then when you're purely going around a loop in the middle of New York? How does that sort of compare?
It is nice to run in beautiful places, but not everybody has the opportunity. Like when I was living in New York, there's no hills, there's no mountains, very close. You have to go upstate. We used to go now and again up to Rockefeller Estate, and there's hills and mountains there, but actually in New York it's pretty flat. So I think that a part of the thing is that it's just, running is just like one way of accessing these depths of ourselves, and I think that Sri Chinmoy, his thinking was that, or his idea was that this is just one way, and there are many ways, but running is simple. It's like you don't need a lot, and it can be done anywhere, wherever you are. And I think that, so yeah, because not everybody is able to live in beautiful places, wherever we are, we can have this practice.
Yes, it's more about you rather than your surroundings.
Something, yes. Yeah, and because it's our experience of ourselves, which is basically our experience of reality. How we are being in the world, and most of the time we're doing stuff. We're not really connected on a very deep level. So this just kind of opens the door for us to see that there are many levels, inside us that we are existing on, that altogether shape our experience. Our experience is not all conscious. There are levels of our being that we're not really totally aware of. So, and especially when we're moving very quickly, we can't experience the depths of things, and that's why I think we have a lot of people saying, listen, and just being more mindful, because that's what it's all about, and it's an easy the concept of being mindful. I think most people know. You just stop and listen and look and just be in the moment, and you can do that like wherever you are. So I think that is part of that idea of having it in a city, in a very difficult, place, because it's right by the side of a big freeway. you don't see it, but just across the road from the edge of the course, there's like that's the ramp to the like one of the main roads out onto Long Island, but just below that there's like a six lane freeway. So in the morning it's jammed with traffic. All the fumes are coming up, and then it gets really hot because it's all surrounded by concrete, and there's lots of people coming past. There's a school on the course, so in the mornings you have to plow through. There can be hundreds of people on the course, you know, so you're forced to deal with life as it actually is. It's not an escape, you know, into the caves of the Himalayas, you know. It's right here in New York on the street. It's you're face to face with not only with reality but with yourself. And you know, so that is like a lot to do, a lot to deal with.
So how did it fundamentally change you as a person then, having that experience?
It shows you lots of things about yourself, you know. And I think the one thing that really stood out for me was you're forced to deal with all the problems that come, you know, from all the ultra running, like injuries and you know, all the different kinds of injuries and exhaustion, and you have to find a way to get through. So all these things can be seen as like as obstacles that you have to find solutions for, and then you start to get into this mode where everything is just finding solutions. That's what your life becomes finding a solution to the next problem, and not getting attached to it emotionally, and in a way that kind of like bogs you down and prevents you from finding a solution. Because ultimately there is, I think we can look at the race in terms of, and our lives in terms of energy, and if like every moment there is energy, you know, like moving in and through us, that there's a flow, you know, like time. We exist as a flow of energy, and from one kind of perspective, and you want to be connected to that, so that you are able to keep doing that, because that's what you have to do to finish. You have to keep going, and you have to be able to, you know, to get through all your problems and all your injuries, and it's so you have to find a way, you know, and so your life becomes problem solving, and you problems keep arising, you know, they don't stop. You know, every day there's something new, and you know, and it's always different. So you have to stay totally on your toes, and because you don't have to think of anything else, you are in that zone and you can stay there, you know, and you can sink deeper and deeper into that, and you are dealing with like, you know, energies that we don't normally encounter, you know. That's something that, especially in the past, people used to talk about hallucinations, and you know, because you're not in your normal state of consciousness, you know. And especially the 3100, you sink deeper and deeper as the race goes on, like day by day, week by week, you sink deeper and deeper into the race, and into these deeper realms of our being. And it's not like you go through a door, you know, and then you're suddenly in there, you know. It's a very subtle, gradual sinking down, you know. And at the end, you have come through all these challenges. You've managed to like resolve all these problems, and you've kind of cleared like a lot of the debris and junk that we kind of build up in our normal day-to-day lives because we can't deal with everything. So at the end of the race, you have a kind of clarity that you don't have before, and you have like this is an inner space that is like a kind of buffer zone that enables you like to look at a large range of human experiences and not be overwhelmed by them, and to effectively find ways to deal with things.
That's interesting. So I know that on some long races that I've done, you get a kind of a clarity of mind about things, and you can think clearly about things because you're in that moment. But what about, because it's such a long race that it goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks, how do you kind of, because I know that like at the end of a race, towards the end of a race, you can be absolutely almost out of your mind with exhaustion and feel like you could not go a step further. You then sit down, have a cup of tea, have some food, and then an hour later you feel as right as rain. How did that work with Transcendence, with the 3,100? At night, could you switch off, or how much sleep did you get? Was it sleep? Were you sort of in and out of another state of mind, not really sleeping? How did that work in the between times when you weren't running?
It's usually very hot in New York in the summer as well. It makes it, and so it's difficult to sleep at night, but you do get so tired that you can't not sleep, after a while. And yeah, I mean, during the day, most people have like a break, and so you have like, maybe you'll have two breaks. You'll have like one maybe about 2 o'clock, and then you have one maybe about 6 or 7, and like short breaks, maybe 20 minutes. And you just go into your van, because like we're all like allocated into a van, and we have like maybe 10, 15 or 20 minutes that is, you just like lie down and you're gone straight away, so it's, and at night you can, the course closes at midnight. So some people like they organize their strategy in such a way that they'll run till like 10 or 10:30, get their miles in, and then they'll go home. So they'll run a bit quicker, to allow that like extra half an hour or an hour earlier, and then so you get a bit more sleep. Some people didn't sleep all day. Like Pranjal didn't sleep. He never took a break. He would run from 6 o'clock in the morning to midnight. Then he would go home and he'd come back and do it all again the next day. So he was a bit slower, but that's it. We're all different. We're all different paces, and we have to figure it out. What works for us the best. So yeah, you have to have sleep, and you have to have a lot of food as well. Food is such a big thing, so you usually like you have food you take home with you like last thing at night, and so you're eating on the way home. If you're being driven home, some of us had bikes, we'd cycle to and from our accommodation. So it's but you've got to eat. You've got to eat. That's the last thing you do is eat. And then usually it's the first thing you do. As soon as you wake up in the morning, you start eating something or drinking, because of the heat. You start putting, water back in, because you just get through so much.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, it's the mind kind of boggles. But that it is another level of running. Talk about ultra running being a niche, and then that is like a niche of a niche, isn't it? But I know that like the history of multi-day events, like big multi-day events, is there's a long history of it, isn't there, in the US and in the UK? Because I know I recently started listening to a podcast about ultra running history.
David Crockett's,
yeah. And I was absolutely amazed. I'd heard little bits and snippets about pedestrianism and everything, but I hadn't quite fathomed the level that they went to back in sort of the early turn of the century, when they were sort of running for days on end, and it became like a huge spectacle that people used to bet on, and people earn a living doing that as a job, like the first like professional ultra runners, you know, all that time ago. I often think of it as being like a modern sport, but it's not. It's got such a history. What is there anything from the past that you think should come back into the modern age? Do you think that we should, you know, there should be more of these like month-long races that go on and on and on? Do you think that's something do you think there's a market out there for people wanting to do that kind of race or event?
There are 6-day races, you know,
6 days in the
Yeah, the 6 days, 10 days, but not many. There is in Italy at the moment, there's a guy that he's been hosting a 6-day race for a few years now, and he's added a 10-day and 1,000-mile and 1,000-kilometer races. So there are. It's not a big popular sport at the moment, because I think that, especially in America, like people they only have like a couple of weeks holiday a year. It's very, very difficult for Americans to take that kind of time off. So it's mostly Europeans at the moment, or it's like people who retired. You know, it's like older people or wealthier people who they don't really need to work. You know, or they can self-employed. They can take that time off. There is a small market. I do think, for me, it's like this kind of like the spiritual dimension to it is really important, and I think that it is good to have these races there, so that people can have these experiences, you know, because it's very difficult to describe and to comprehend. You know, it's something that you really need to do, you know, and so that's why I do support the races, you know, in the magazine and with the websites as much as I can, because it's a rare opportunity, you know, to have that kind of experience. It's not the only way, you know. I think that there are, you know, like many different ways that routes that we can take to have, you know, deeper experiences of ourselves. But Shuichi Moore, for him, it was like, this is something that's like fairly simple and fairly straightforward, you know. And you don't need like a lot of gear or equipment, and you just need to be able to keep moving, you know. And you know, Yolanda Holder, an American lady, she came and she walked the whole thing. She's a race walker, and she managed to complete the race, you know, walking. And so it's not only running, but it's that endurance, you know, and that state of mind of you know, I'm going to go, and I'm going to prevail, you know, I'm going to do the best that I can, you know. And the Shichimoi races, the self-transcendence races, are set up with a lot of support. You know, most of the fields are pretty small, but there's a lot of support to enable people to operate at this level, because they understand, you know, because that's what they're doing, you know, that's what they've been doing, and they know what it's like, and what's needed. So it's an environment that's kind of designed to have like this a deeper experience, you know. But it's not just for, you know, not everybody wants not everybody sees it through the spiritual lens, but it is still connecting with yourself on a deeper and deeper level. And one of the things that happens is that you're able to integrate these different aspects of our being. And so at the end, it's kind of like a kind of therapy, you know. It's a kind of, it resolves like things that maybe we aren't able to work through on you know, on a, you know, day-to-day lives, because we just aren't able to concentrate and to focus on those things, because we've got so many other things going on. You know, we've got to get to work, and you know, work is intense. You can't be thinking about, you know, different states of consciousness and what's, you know, the framework, you know, that you're operating in. You just can't relate to that kind of thing, you know, in a normal, normal day-to-day life. So so these are places where we can have these experiences, you know, and we can, it makes us better runners as well.
Absolutely. I know they speak about like long races being like life in a day.
Yeah.
And I think it is a long race is like a metaphor for life, isn't it? If you know, problems arise, you've got to work through them. You know, you focus on them, because that's all you've got to think about at that point. I can imagine that being one of those, being that sort of case where you can probably work through issues that you've had in life that you've never dealt with because you've never had the time or mental space to be able to do it. But such a long race will give you that kind of mental space to be able to do that. And even, I suppose, even on a smaller scale with shorter ultras, you know, just people just view running. I know I personally view running as like my own mental therapy, just being, and I have done for a long time. As long as I've taken running seriously, it's always been my escape from everything else. Just go out, have time to myself, think about things, and just clear my head. And then I'm ready for life again. My wife sometimes will say to me, "Oh, just go for a run," because she understands that something's stressing me out, life's getting in the way, and she knows well enough to know that if she just says go for a run, drop whatever you're doing, go for a run, she knows that I will come back 100% better person for going for that run. And even if it's just like a quick half an hour blast down my local trail, or whether I'm gone for 2 or 3 hours, she knows that when I come back, I've sorted out what I was stressed about. Maybe I've come to resolve that in my own mind, what I'm dealing with. Maybe I've come up with a solution. Doesn't always happen that way, but sometimes that happens. So I can see the attraction of a really, really long race. I can definitely see that. But just we started to talk about the magazine and everything. So you've been doing Ultrarunning World since 2007, is that right?
That's when the first edition came out. The number one. But then it took me a couple of years to get the next one together. I think that was like 2010, and then I think I did like 6 issues. I was doing everything myself, and it just got too much. And because my standards just kept going up, I wanted better and better and more, but my skill level wasn't going up quickly enough. So it just ended up going too slow, and so I just ground to a halt in about, I think, 2015. And so then I had a couple of years off, and then another magazine started up, and I thought, come on, you've got to keep doing this. So I found a graphic designer, and I found a proofreader, And so I relaunched in 2017, and so we've been doing it ever since. It's not always as quick as I wanted out. There's been some longer gaps, but our next issue is going to be the biggest for a long time. There's lots of things coming out, and it's very exciting. Yes.
I know that's how we got connected was through the magazine. So
yes, your article.
Yeah, through a mutual friend. I'd done Stu Westfield's race in the Peak District, south and north, the two day ultra, and I was on the Facebook group for it, and our mutual friend Sarah Thee.
Oh yes.
She was the one that said, "Can somebody write a race report about this race?" And she actually tagged me in the post. So I was like, "Oh, someone wants to hear about the race." So I thought, I've not got much history in writing articles, but I knew it was something that I wanted to do and write about. I've written stuff in the past, but never had anything published. Never got to that stage where I tried to get it published. But I thought, this is my chance to kind of fulfill one of my dreams of writing about ultra running. So I did an article for you about Stu's race, and that's how we got connected. So that was issue 36, was it?
Yes. I'm very grateful, because there's so many races that now. I mean, like 20 years ago when I first started. Yeah, it was 20 years ago when I first started building websites, and there were only a handful of races, in the UK, and only a handful in America. Really, there weren't that many. But now it's just there's hundreds and hundreds. It's like 500 races in the ultras in the UK. This year, and we just can't get to them all. I mean, that was something that was happening with Ultrarunning Magazine, which I used to get when I was living in America, because it was the only thing. It was very, very inspiring, and they just couldn't cover all the races. So that's when I started my own. I had a little magazine. I have a copy here now of one of the first ones.
This issue 1.
This is issue 5 of the first. It was called Multi-Day Running.
Oh yeah.
So I made 5 or 6 of these. It's all black and white, and it's just this was, so I started doing this, and then I decided I had to do a proper full color magazine, and so that's how Ultrarunning World was born. And there's just so much. I mean, since then, we can't get to all the races, and there's a lot of races I can't even. I don't even know that they exist, even in the UK. I've got a calendar on Ultrarunning World that tries to like cover as much as I can, but this thing's popping up all the time now. It's impossible to stay on top of what's happening. We need an army, we need a huge team, and we don't have it. So we just have to do what we can, and that's why I'm very grateful for anybody who wants to write, because that's the only way that that people are going to hear about a lot of races, is by like this. People, they write something, they share their experience, and maybe other people will be inspired. So
it's a win-win. I think if we sort of put it out there into the universe that if there's anybody that's listening now, watching now to the podcast, and you're doing an obscure race somewhere that people probably never heard of, write a race report and get in touch with the magazine, and you'll be more than happy to accept some articles, won't you? I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. We have proofreaders who can make sure that it can make it'll make sense, so that we don't really edit that much, but as long as it makes sense, then we take anything really, as long as you is coherent, so yeah, because most of us, we're runners, we're not writers. That's definitely something that I understand and accept, because I'm not a writer either. I'm a runner. I just got inspired to do this because there was a gap, like our races in New York, the 6 and 10 day. Some of these people are just so amazing. I just it was they're so inspiring. Their energy is just so uplifting, and to be around them and to talk to them, it's you just don't meet people like that in normal life, so we were having amazing experiences, and there wasn't a magazine to kind of like share that, that. So now there is. I mean, it's yeah.
I know when it's obviously been like a labour of love for you, hasn't it, over the years, with having to do it all yourself. But I think that just shows how passionate you are about ultra running and multi-day racing, and the fact that you've soldiered on all these years and shouldered the burden of producing a magazine, by yourself up until this point. And I think it just shows how affecting the sport of running can be to people. The fact that it, like you say, all it is just a simple act, isn't it? You put on a pair of shoes, you go out the door and you run. But it's so much more than that, isn't it? It's not just a simple physical act of running. It's the culture, it's everything that goes with it, the races, watching people do well in races, following runners that you're inspired by. Is there anyone that over the years that you've been inspired to write about, or just inspires you as a runner, that you've seen over the years?
A lot. The Ashby Hannell Alto, he's won the 3100 several times. I first ran with him in a 700-mile race on Ward's Island, and he is able to just run like, it's hard to describe, but he's got tremendous capacity, and he's able to manifest that capacity. He ran the 3100 and set a new record a few years ago now, just on 40 days, just over 40 days. And it took him a few years to break the record that was set by a German guy, Marupran Wolfgang Schwerk. His 24-hour time was second to Yanis Kouros.
Wow.
For many years. Under 3100, and he set the record of I think it was 44 days, and then 42 days. Hannell just took it down to 40 days. It's just there's all those guys. I was fortunate. I gotta fess up now. I was fortunate. I was able to finish the race. At the time, there was a lady running, her name was Shuprabha Beckford, and she ran every year, but as she got older, she got a bit slower. So Sri Chinmoy said that the race would end when she finished. So it just so happened that I was able just to finish in front of her. So, but it was over the 52 days. Now they enforce the 52 days, because Sri Chinmoy, he passed away in 2007. So they went back to his original time frame. And but I was able to finish all those times just ahead of Superba. And so my best was like 54 days. And so there's definitely a couple of races that Ashby Hanold, he finished 2 weeks in front of me. It's just mind blowing how far ahead somebody can be in front of you in a race. And so, yeah, he amongst others, there's all those guys were they're just incredible human beings. They're so nice. They're so, they have great compassion and great understanding of human life and the challenges that we all go through. We're all in the same boat, and they're able, to identify with that and yet at the same time not be attached. I think that this is one of the great lessons of our lives that we're learning is how not to be attached, to be present and to be, connected and empathetic and compassionate, but not attached. I think that this is like a Buddhist kind of perspective as well, to be unattached, and it's something that just like arises, because it's like it's something you understand, that our attachment to things, sometimes it's helpful, but more often than not, it's just a habit. It's something that we've got into like a way of doing because it's easy, or it's a solution. It is a solution often, but then we stick with it, and then it becomes a habit. And then, but beyond the habit, there are like other resolutions that maybe are more helpful, and maybe not only more helpful for us, but more helpful for other people. And it's that kind of expansion that you open into, which is like this kind of deeper aspect of our being, where we understand and we connect with people. It's not just a mental thing. It's like on an energetic level, and it's this identification that this deeper part of our being has. Whereas the mind is much, it sticks to things like very quickly, and sometimes it just doesn't let go of things, and it can hold us in places that we really don't want to be in. So, and this is one of the things the running does. It helps us release that attachment. It's something that, this is, I think, what you were saying earlier on. It just helps you clear out, whatever it is that you're stuck on, and you're able to find some kind of solution or resolution, and you can move forward. And even if it's just a little thing, all the little things add up to life eventually. That's what it is. They're not separate from us. Every little, instance or experience is part of the totality of our being. And that's something that I think that we have to like have as a bigger goal, or as the bigger picture, is this integration of the totality of our being. On an ordinary everyday today level, we're kind of fragmented, and because that's just the way life is normal, in our normal, in society, and when you go on a retreat, it is actually pulling out of that and having the experience of integrating the bigger things. But we need to do it on a regular basis, and for me, this is what meditation's about. It's a kind of like mini period of like integrating whatever's going on, and letting it go and being present. so that you can allow life and the new challenges to come in. Because if we're like hung up on all our yesterday's problems, there's no room. It can't get in, and we just like we get paralyzed, because we can't deal with the incoming energy, because we're just like hanging on to too much stuff. So that's why running is so therapeutic. It enables the energy to start flowing again.
I think basically, in summary, running is the answer.
For many, it is, or something. Not everybody is drawn to running. So
people, I think everybody should be able to experience the benefits of running, or even just, people took for granted just the experience of being outdoors. And I think probably the pandemic taught a lot of people that, they were attached to things, they were concerned about the anxieties of life on a daily basis. And then once those things were taken away, and they were given, as much as it was a bad thing, they were given a bit of freedom and space to just be outside and just be with family. If that was possible for them. I think the pandemic sort of taught people that, you don't need all these things, that getting up in the morning and going to a place of work, being stuck with a load of people that you don't particularly like, having to do a job that you don't particularly like. And a lot of people were given a bit of freedom to sort of be outside. And I think that's why there's a lot of people that have taken up running in recent years. I know with my sideline of doing some coaching ultra runners, I know that often I'm getting inquiries from people that literally have just started running in the pandemic. They didn't run before. They decided that they were going to go and run during lockdown, and then 2 years later they're an ultra runner. And I think that that's been the gift of the last few years, is that people have they've been given this gift of running to help them deal with problems that happened at that point, the stress of the pandemic, but they've taken running into their life as it's carried on, as life has started to emerge again and start up again. People have carried on using running as that sort of getaway from life. And I think, obviously, there's no better time for you to be publishing an ultra running magazine, because, ultra running seems to be on an upward trajectory. I speak to lots of people in the industry, and everybody seems to be saying the same thing, that there's that whole, it's the fastest growing sport, et cetera, but if you're in the industry, in the trail running industry, it seems to be that not every man and his dog is ultra running, but everybody's started to hear about ultra running. It's not this niche that it used to be, of this, just a few crazy runners going and doing long races. It's more accessible. So is that something you've tried to do with the magazine, make ultra running more accessible to more people? Has that been a goal of it?
Yeah, it is to encourage people to explore themselves, and that is something that you can do, with the longer races. And the longer the race, the deeper you can go, and the more you learn about yourself. I think that's the key thing, is that you're learning about yourself, and that is what we need, because it's like, it's not really something that we're taught in schools. We're taught how to deal with some things outside of us, but we're not given like a kind of an inner framework,
and mechanisms. Yeah, we're not taught coping mechanisms, are we?
No, and I think that these ultras are opportunities for us to experience ourselves, in a kind of, in a controlled way. And for a lot of people, it's like, it's it is opening their eyes to, you know, a new dimension of themselves as they realize, you know, that what they're capable of. Because up until this time, they don't really know what they're capable of, you know, and the more you kind of expand, you know, the more, you know, the more you are able to take in.
Yeah, absolutely. And just while we're on the subject of people starting running and getting to know about ultra running, one of the main reasons that we wanted to talk tonight was your recent news that you're going to be hosting a running show in Bristol. Tell us about that.
Well, it came from Tracy Waite. She invited me to go down to her Cornwall Run Show in April with the magazine. I'd offered her some space. She had a community. It's a community business. What are they called? It's a CIC. I can't remember what. It's a community interest.
Okay.
Community interest, something. Anyway, so she's like offering this an opportunity for people to run and to talk about you know their problems, you know, people with got like mental health issues. So I was giving her some space, you know, to advertise, you know, that, and then she invited me down. So I went down, and then on the way back on the train, I started talking to her, and she was very encouraging, and I just suddenly thought, you know, I could do this in Bristol. We could do this. So she told me everything, you know, how she managed to do, you know, to set up this Cornwall show. So then I came back, and then we started looking for a venue, and eventually found Ashton Court. It's quite small. It's quite small, and but it's very old, and the grounds are just fantastic. Anybody who knows Bristol, you know, knows that Ashton Court is the place to go to run. If it's not the Downs, the Downs is one place, and Ashton Court is gorgeous. So yeah, so we were lucky enough to get it, and it was just over it's just over 2 weeks actually, and I've just started inviting people, and we're almost full already. So I can't believe the response. Actually, it's just been phenomenal, and even today, lots of people have been contacting me, and it's very exciting. It's going to start about 9 o'clock in the morning. There's a park run. The Bristol Park Run actually starts on the doorstep as well. So hopefully, you know, lots of park runners will want to come and check it out. And so we're having like yoga and maybe some Pilates in the morning, and as well as all the stalls and the vendors. And then in the afternoon, we've got a whole series of talks lined up on different aspects of running. We've got lots of invited guests. We're having a couple of podcasts. There's going to be at least 2 podcasts. Podcasting is the medium of the moment, I think. It's a lot of people are excited by it, and me too. So we're going to be having lots of local runners come and talk at the show about various aspects, and there'll be guided runs from we've got half a dozen groups at the moment from different clubs: Bristol Great Western Runners, Bristol West, and it's a whole, and yeah, there's a big. We're trying to get some women's groups as well. I've invited Soul Sisters to come, and hopefully they will. And today I was talking to a gentleman who is connected to a visually impaired runners group. So we hopefully we'll have something for everybody. there's going to be shops and different therapists and different different things. We can have like hopefully there's going to be some like course, like a mini course or talks on navigation and using GPS and things like that. So it'll be aimed at newcomers. We hope to try and have as many things as possible. Well, yeah, I've invited like the Bristol Physiotherapy Clinic. There's a guy, Alex Duncan, said that he'll come and give a talk, about injuries for newcomers to the sport. So sometimes a lot of people, they start running, they have a problem and they don't really know how to deal with it. So we're going to have, we hope to cover, have something there for everybody, and not just like beginners, but intermediate distance, and of course ultra runners. We've got some ultra running hosts come in and some talk speakers about different aspects of ultra running. I'm really excited about it. It's just starting to happen.
Sounds good. Yeah. So is this going to be kind of like a one day thing, or is that over a weekend, or how is it?
It's just a one day. It's on Saturday, November the 26th. Yeah, I at the beginning I didn't know how many people would be interested in coming, or whether or not it wouldn't really be something that people were interested in. But people are keen to come, so I could have. I'm thinking about next year already.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, if it's a success like it sounds it's going to be, you're probably going to be looking for a bigger venue, aren't you? Next year.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, the one of the attractions, well, the main attraction actually was the grounds. It's just a fantastic place to run. It's just, it's just, this is close to nature, as you can get in Bristol. It's because it's just like 3 miles from the city centre, and there's a big deer park there. There's lots of trees and the woods you can run in. It's so nice. It's and it's hilly, so yeah, it's just a perfect place to have guided runs, and so that was the main thing. I did look at several other venues, but because I wasn't sure, how it was going to be received, I just thought I'm sure we could cover that, and it's only been 2 weeks and we're there. So well, almost there. I mean, there's still, a lot of little details, and there's a lot of people who said, oh yeah, we'll probably come, so not everything's nailed down, but if everybody comes who said that they would, then we are full,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's very exciting.
Well, I'm most certainly going to be there.
Yes, I'm looking forward to having you.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm really looking forward to it. It'd be nice to go to Bristol and not associate it with work, because my day job, I fix hydraulic presses, and I go to Bristol quite a bit to go to Airbus, the Airbus factory
up in Filton.
Yeah, in Filton. Yeah, so my association of Bristol and like the motorway and everything is normally for work, so it'd be nice to come down for a reason other than work.
Absolutely, yeah. You should, yeah.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be good. Brilliant. So is there anything that you think we've missed? Is there anything you wanted to talk about while we're on? Anything to do with the show that you want people to know about, or anything?
The show's free. So we are hoping that lots of newcomers to the sport, lots of novices or beginner runners, or people who are interested in running, want to come. And there's going to be lots of people there. Like I said, we've got like half a dozen running clubs, and they will have lots of people there for whoever wants to get into running. If it's, if you and it's not just clubs though. We'll be having, there's there's the no club. There's people like that, you know, because not everybody wants to be part of a club, like you said. So we wanted to invite like a lot more, you know, personal trainers and coaches, but we really limited in how many tables, you know, that we can offer. But everybody is welcome to come, and it'll be a great place to network. You know, there's a great coffee shop next door that's open to the public. So they serve like vegan food as well, and there's going to be something for everybody. There really is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be good. So for people to find out more about you, what social media do you use? You got your own personal ones on Instagram and Facebook, but you want to sort of direct people towards the magazine and the show. How can people find out more information about the show and the magazine?
The website is ultrarunningworldmagazine.com, and the show is bristolrunningshow.com, and we have Facebook and Instagram for both of those. And I spend a lot of time on Facebook, so people can message me there. I guess Abichal Sherrington, you can find me, or Ultrarunning World. That's yeah. We have two websites. There's one, our original website, ultrarunningworld.co.uk. Some people can't reach it for some reason. We haven't been able to figure out. There's some people have problems, they can't reach the site, so that's why we set up the new one, ultrarunningworldmagazine.com. So that one you can reach us.
so one of the two. So what I'll do is I'll put the links in the show notes.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you.
Because this will go out on YouTube as well as on the podcast audio version going out on all the streaming sites. So in all the write-up, I'll put in all the links so everyone can get in touch with you and have a look at the show.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
That's all right. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. I appreciate you coming on and spending some time chatting to us. And all the best with the show. And I look forward to seeing you there. And hopefully some of our listeners and viewers will be there too.
Great. Thank you very much indeed. I'm looking forward to meeting you too.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for talking to us. Cheers.
See you.